In regard to the regulations, I have already been given some drafts and have made some input with regard to them. With regard to the terms of reference, I have taken the attitude that because there are certain controversies with regard to the terms of reference, I will wait for those to be finalized. After all, a commission doesn't prepare its own terms of reference. So the terms of reference are being prepared, and once they are finalized and are given to the commission will then work with those. The commission will require to make certain key appointments quite soon before it can really get going. It will be necessary to appoint a secretary, the secretary of the commission, which the Commissions Act prescribes. That is like the administrative head of the commission. It will be necessary to also appoint lawyers, a team of lawyers who would form a group of evidence leaders, and they will need to have their own leader. And it will be necessary to also appoint investigators who will need to embark on certain investigations and ensure that evidence relating to the various allegations is brought to the leaders of evidence and ultimately to the commission. At this stage, because the regulations are yet to be finalized and published, because the Commissions Act requires that they be published in the Government Gazette, because that has not happened yet, no formal appointments can be made. But I have no doubt that the regulations should be ready in no time. And once the regulations are ready, certain appointments can be made. With regard to the terms of reference, I have no idea, but I have no doubt that that too is being attended to with the urgency that it requires. So as soon as the regulations are ready, we will start making key appointments. I have already been considering various names, which of course I can't tell you now, but in my own mind, I'm quite clear about a number of people from which I will choose the secretary and from which I will also choose some of the lawyers who would be involved, as well as some of the investigators. So as soon as the regulations are ready, the next step will be then to make those key appointments and be ready to ensure that the investigation starts full swing. I think that's where I'm going to stop, and I will, of course, take some clarification-seeking questions.
Okay, there you are, colleagues. What I will do, please bear with me. I'll take one question at a time and allow the DCJ to respond. I know you're used to taking more questions than the response, but we'll do it that way so that we can deal with them. I would take the first round. I'll note Karen, I'll note, Kata, and the third hand, you. And then we'll come back again. Yes, thanks.
DCJ, you mentioned certain controversies with regards to the terms of reference. And just to be explicit about that, is this the controversy? There's been a great deal of legal debate because of the North Gauteng's finding that the president was too conflicted in terms of these allegations to appoint yourself. And now there's a conjecture that he is too conflicted to create the terms of reference for this inquiry. Is that the controversy to which you refer? And I'm sure you've been aware of particularly the utterances of the public protector in terms of widening the scope of the investigation. Have there been any overtures from the presidency to yourself or about those kind of issues? And when you have, I mean, you've outlined perfectly how urgent and serious these allegations are, and I think we all know this needs to be resolved as soon as possible. But when you ask presidency how soon this is going to happen and when you'll be able to get on with your job, what kind of timelines are they giving you, or if they are giving you timelines?
Well, with regard to the terms of reference, I'm speaking about the debate about how narrow or how wide they should be. That's what I'm talking about. With regard to how soon, I can't really say, because as I say, I've taken the attitude that the terms of reference must be determined and fixed, and I'm not going to make any input into how they should be. When they are finalized, then they are brought to me. I'll look at them. If I have any concern with regard to whether they would allow me to do my job properly, then I can take it from there. I can raise that there. So we wait. As I say, I'm under the impression that the matter is receiving urgent attention, but I've no idea how long it's going to take. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurita.
Thank you very much, Justice Zondo. I just want you to kind of a few things. So firstly, have you been in any communication with the president since he announced you as the president?
That's Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo briefing the media on the state of capture commission of inquiry. Justice Zondo announced that the terms of reference have not yet been finalized, but that the presidency is still working on them. And then because there is controversies around the terms of reference, he will wait for it to be finalized. Also saying that at this stage, because the regulations are yet to be finalized and published, no formal appointments can be made. Former Eskom Chief Financial Officer Nash Singh is expected to testify at the parliamentary Eskom inquiry today. Hours ahead of his slated appearance in front of a portfolio committee on public enterprises, Singh put in his papers. In a statement last night, Eskom said its newly appointed board has accepted Singh's resignation with immediate effect. Singh was suspended in September of 2017 after being placed on special leave at the end of July.
We received a letter from Mr. Singh's lawyers essentially indicating that he would like to leave Eskom with immediate effect. The board has written back to the lawyers of Mr. Singh saying that they are accepting the resignation, and as a result, this means that Mr. Singh is no longer an Eskom employee.
Here are the allegations against Nash Singh as noted in the G9 forensic probe instituted by Eskom. Nash Singh, then acting CEO, knew that McKinsey had severed ties with Trillion. Singh cleared payments to Trillion despite knowing there was no contract. Payments were okayed without Treasury's approval for deviation on the remuneration model for the contract. The probe report says that it is not unreasonable to conclude that Singh did not act decisively in the best interest of Eskom. Nash Singh may have resigned, but another embattled Eskom executive, Machela Koko, refuses to bow out. Eskom's head of generation and former acting CEO, Machela Koko, says he is being targeted for fighting corruption. Koko is set to appear before the parliamentary inquiry into controversies around Eskom on Wednesday. In his written submission seen by ANN7, Koko says he is being used to discredit the power utility and the government. Koko was reinstated as Eskom's head of generation after being cleared by a disciplinary inquiry. Coco says the attack on him has been very hurtful. He says, and I quote, "I am part of a frenzied campaign to break Eskom and to discredit the government. I have been caught in the crossfire and have been unable to defend myself against it." Allegations around Tegeta, a narrative that has been spun by the media and others. Coco has also rebutted the allegations around Eskom forcing Glencore to sell Optimum and favouring Tegeta. The acquisition has been at the centre of media narrative of undue advantage being given to Tegeta. We have to go back live now to where Deputy Justice Chief Zondo is briefing the media on the state of capture inquiry.
Yes.
You said the terms of reference are going to be set by the presidency, if I'm not mistaken. Is there any concern that you have over that having some sort of conflict of interest? I mean, we've had judgments that have set out that President Jacob Zuma himself cannot even appoint the NPA head or, make certain appointments that are key to his office. Are you at all concerned that there may be a conflict of interest in him setting out terms of references, especially since some of his family members and possibly himself were implicated in the foundation of the commission itself, which is the Public Protector's State of Capture report? And then you've said that the regulations will be released soon and that you are possibly working on them. Do you have an about date as to when we can maybe anticipate the release of the regulations of the commission? And also, I know you've said you're waiting for the terms of reference from the presidency, but is there any indication either from the presidency or your office on when you would anticipate that the commission itself should start?
Thank you very much. The law states who is the authority to deal with the terms of reference. I, as chairperson of the commission, will just wait for the terms of reference to be given, and once they are given, and if they stand, and like if there is no challenge to them and so on, I will work with those terms of reference. Of course, it may well be that in some quarters there may be some concern, but I leave that to other people. From my side, I take the view that I have been asked to do this commission. My name has been given to the President by the Chief Justice, and as soon as all these requirements, the regulations and the terms of reference have been taken care of, I'm ready to make decisions that must be made, to have key appointments made to the commission, and to get the commission up and running. With regard to the regulations, I can't give you a date, but I would be surprised if after a few days they are not ready. I think they probably will be ready in a few days. With regard to the terms of reference, I can't tell you more than simply to say my understanding is that they are being given urgent attention, but I can't tell you more than that.
Thank you. I have noted, I'll start with you, Sir, and you, and then we'll start with you, Mr.
Thank you. Good afternoon, my name is Natasha from the Business Day.
Yes.
The President indicated in his statement announcing your appointment that he has not quite abandoned the appeal of the High Court judgment ordering him to establish this commission of inquiry. What would happen if he did go ahead with that appeal? Would it not nullify or render null and void the work that you are going to embark on in the next few months?
Well, you see, I think it would be legitimate for people to have concern about that. It's legitimate to have concern about that. But once the regulations have been put in place and the commission is ready to start its work, if there are any issues that I think need to be clarified, I will have the powers, for example, of having council briefed to give an opinion as to how that decision would affect the work of the commission. But what we must remember is that the appointment, the establishment of the commission and my appointment was done pursuant to remedial action by the public protector. And we must remember that, as you all know, the Constitutional Court has said that as long as the remedial action of the public protector has not been set aside on review, it is binding. So there was a remedial action saying this is what must be done, and that has been done. So I have no doubt that if that becomes a concern, we will get a legal opinion from council as to how that might affect the work of the commission. But what I must emphasize is that as soon as the regulations are ready and the terms of reference have been sorted out, I am ready to make those key appointments which are necessary for the commission, and I would like this commission to start its work yesterday. Thank you.
Sir?
Graham Hoskin from Sunday Times. In terms of the time frame that you have to chair this whole commission once it actually starts to once it ends, what is the time frame that you have to chair, and are you concerned that you will have, given the complexity of the work and everything that you need to go through, the evidence, are you concerned that you're not going to have enough time? What steps can you take to maybe possibly extend the commission's time frame?
Well, the issue of the time frame is one of concern. I say that against the background of what I've just said a few minutes ago, namely that these are serious allegations that need to be investigated as soon as possible. But at the same time, the allegations must be investigated properly and thoroughly, so that the findings that the commission will make and the recommendations that it will make will be findings and recommendations that are a product of a proper investigation and of a thorough investigation. The time frame is 180 days, and it's not clear whether the 180 days is from the date when the appointment of the commission was made or from the date the commission is able to start its work. But whatever the date is, 180 days is not a long time. I'm not aware of any commission in the past that was able to do any serious investigation and finish it within 180 days, which is 6 months. Indeed, we all know of commissions that took over a year, took a number of years before they finalized their work. So that will have to be looked at. There's no doubt that the work of the commission must be given priority and must be dealt with urgently, but at the same time, we can't compromise the quality of the investigation. So once the commission begins its work, it will look at this time frame and take a view about whether or not that is enough time to do a proper job. Thank you. Second John. Yes. Yes.
I have 4 or 3 questions. First, was the president informed about the press? Secondly, was the Office of the Public Protector as well informed? Does the Deputy Justice have a view on the contentious issue of the terms of reference of the inquiry? Last one, is the Deputy Chief Justice in a way in talks or contact with elements we describe as representatives of the white capital?
Thank you. Well, when I saw the president before he made the announcement, he indicated that there would be a team from the presidency with whom I would need to communicate for anything I need in terms of the work of the commission. I did mention to a member of that team yesterday in the course of our discussion of what else needs to be done that I would have this conference. I've not given notice to the public protector. I've not given notice to anybody. But as you all know, you were all informed yesterday that there would be this conference. With regard to being in contact with elements of white monopoly capital, I'm not sure what that means, but I've not been in touch with any groups in terms of the work of this commission for any reason. So I guess the answer has to be no.
Thank you. Sir, I'll take you. Madam, the third, the gentleman right there.
My name is Sapo Ikaden from the SABC. Deputy Chief Justice, in view of the fact that there are already some kind of inquiry going on in Parliament around state capture affecting some of the SOEs, how much of an impact is this going to be having on the job that you'll be doing that could be seen as parallel to that undertaken by Parliament?
Thank you very much. Well, once the commission starts, we will have to look at who else has been doing some investigation that would fall under our job, or who else is doing investigation that would fall under our job. And I think we would need to take a view as to how to deal with that. One, there is no need for duplication, but at the same time, we have to make sure that whatever investigation may already have been done by somebody else or might be done by somebody else, if we can benefit from any groundwork that they have done, we will need to look at that. So we'll need to take a view once the commission is up and running and once the evidence leader and evidence leaders have been appointed. And then we'll take a view to say there is that investigation going on, what do we do? So we'll take a view on that in due course.
Yes, ma'am.
It's just in addition to my colleague's question that just recently asked. Even I was going to talk about the NPA has already started its, some of the cases that they've already started looking into in the past week as well as this week on the dairy farm as well as Trillion and McKinsey. So it was similar question as to how is that going to have an impact. And also, I just wanted to ask, can you give us more details on who are these people that's in the team of this presidency that earlier you're speaking about?
Okay. Well, I guess that aspect of your question that relates to the question that has been asked has been answered, With regard to the people that, the one that I have particularly dealt with is Miss Lakela Kaunda, who I understand is like the COO of the presidency. Then there are legal people who are also working with her. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentleman over there.
Hi, this is Philip Tibet from the Mail and Guardian. By our calculation, the 30-day window that the President was given by the High Courts to appoint the Commission will end at the end of January. Do you concur with that? Have you counted the work days and the court days? In other words, will the President be in breach on the 30th of January if he should not give you terms of reference by then? And let's just say he does not. What happens then? Are you now in a position to, for instance, write a sternly worded letter to the President to say that he is overdue? Do you become party to proceedings then to force the President to actually publish the terms of reference? What happens if he does not give you terms?
Well, I haven't calculated. My understanding was that the 30 days was the 30 days within which the president had to establish or appoint the commission, which he has done. Whether or not what the impact is of the fact that the terms of reference are not ready yet might be another matter. And I don't have any particular views on that, and I think I should not express any views. I have no doubt in my mind that the president appreciates the urgency of this inquiry, and I think in his announcement he made that clear as well. So I think that the terms of reference should be finalized without any undue delay. As I say, I can't give you a date, and I can't say more than I have said, but at this stage, my task is to make sure that as soon as the legal framework is in place, key appointments are made and the commission starts its work. Thank you.
I'm probably going to go for the last round. I'll take 3 more. Huge, sir. I don't see any other hand. Is it only one? Okay. Oh, sorry, 2. And then 3. We'll see if we have seconds. Okay. Over to you, sir.
Hi, Alex from News 24. I just want to push on the one matter of the terms of reference. It's even been found in the High Court that President Zuma seems to enjoy employing delaying tactics. And you say, you know, once your regulations are done, once key appointments are made, you're ready to do your work. But I mean, what is the legal recourse if you're ready to go and the terms of reference still haven't been received? What if terms of reference still haven't been received by June? And then secondly, I just want to ask, what confidence does the public have in this commission when its terms of references are being decided by a person implicated in state capture? Thank you.
Well, with regard to the terms of reference, the commission can't start its work until the terms of reference are determined. But as I said earlier on, the law determines who determines the terms of reference. Whether that can be changed or not, I don't know. And that is something that maybe somebody else might wish to look at, but I'm working on the basis that the law determines who fixes the terms of reference, and it's not the chairman of the commission, chairperson of the commission. And the commission can't start its work until those terms of reference are in place. I'm aware that at some stage, at least, it appeared that there were issues about how wide the scope of the terms of reference should be, and that at some stage there needs to be finality on that at some stage, and once there is finality, we'll deal with it. In terms of the public and who set the terms, you know, this is a constitutional democracy. We know that, for example, the manner in which I was appointed to the commission was not a usual manner, and that's because the public protector had stipulated in her remedial action that the president mustn't be the one who selects the judge. It should be the chief justice, and the chief justice did that. Other people will debate about whether that should go beyond the appointment of the chairperson or not, but as things stand, We have a remedial action of the public protector which said the Chief Justice must select the judge, and it must be the Chief Justice only who makes that selection. I have been selected by the Chief Justice. I am ready, once the regulatory framework is in place, to get going. Thank you.
Thank you. Who was next? No, not the seconds yet.
I'm just curious, what else did you discuss with the president? I know that he indicated that he gave you a team that helped you out. What else? Didn't he even indicate maybe the terms of reference? What else did you discuss with the president?
Well, he said that the terms of reference were still to be finalized. So he told me about the announcement, the process between himself and the Chief Justice about the Chief Justice giving him a name. He told me that he wanted to make an announcement, and that he would give me a team in the presidency, so that if I needed anything for the commission, that's the team that I would deal with. And my understanding is that he wants to make sure that the commission gets whatever support it needs. That's the impression I have.
Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, and thank you for taking my question. It's been an honor Deputy Chief Justice. The allegations of state capture arose out of the report of
Please raise your voice.
the allegations of state capture arose out of the former report of the former public protector. The public protector has suggested that the president should confine himself to addressing issues identified in the report. So the question therefore is, how much weight does her report carry in influencing how the president sets up the terms of reference, seeing that the president has proposed a broader inquiry that extends beyond the recommendations and guidance of the public protector's report. So how much weight does that report carry in influencing how he sets up the
Well, everything about this commission comes from the public protector's report. So I would imagine that in setting the terms of reference, the public protector's report remains the document from which everyone looks, because the allegations that the public protector said must be investigated, you will find them there primarily. But of course we know that the public protector did say that because of constraints on resources and I think time, there were other allegations that she was not able to investigate. But I think that the public protector's report remains an important document.